gentlemen, we will begin this meeting of the Syracuse Planning Commission. We have a very long agenda for this evening with a lot of items to cover, hence the earlier start time for this meeting than is typically the case. We're trying to get through everything on the agenda tonight, so please bear with us. One note I would add that where there are multiple speakers on a given application, if someone ahead of you has already made a specific comment or point or raised an issue, feel free to let that stand for the record and move on to a different point of interest or concern that you want to register. It'll help expedite the evening's business. We will try to get through all of this if we can. And with that, before we begin our hearing schedule for this evening, we have one item, and that is to adopt our minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion on those minutes?
Move approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Our minutes from September 16th are approved. And also, for those who may be unfamiliar with our process, as each application is announced from the podium, we ask the applicant or their representative to come forward to the podium, provide your name and address for the record, a summary of the application, and following questions from commission members, we will then ask those members of the public who wish to speak in favor of the application to come forward to do so, and then we will ask those members who wish to speak in opposition to the application to come forward and do likewise. When there are comments made in opposition, we will encourage the applicant to return to the podium to address those comments in opposition. So with that, let's begin, please.
Good afternoon, Commission members. The first public hearing this evening is 3S0123M1. This is a 3-mile limit subdivision review in the town of Manlius. This is to divide one property into two new lots at 5351 North Burdick Street. Core Route 5 Company is the owner and applicant.
Thank you. If the applicant is here, please come forward. We don't seem to have an applicant. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. Well, if we go at this pace all night, we'll be out here in no time. It's not uncommon, though, for 3-mile limit cases for there not to be many speakers. That's the case apparently in this instance. The application, though, is complete from a staff perspective.
Yes.
And then we'll close this hearing and move to our next hearing.
Second public hearing is 3S1912. This is also a 3-mile limit subdivision review. This is in the town of DeWitt. This is to combine two properties in one new lot at 3489 and 3493 Erie Boulevard East. ESW Realty LLC is the owner and applicant.
If the applicant is here, please come forward. Representative of the applicant. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. Once again, 3-mile limit case, and the application is complete in all respects. Okay, we'll close this hearing as well, move to our next hearing.
The next public hearing is 3S1913. This is a 3-mile limit subdivision review, also in the town of DeWitt. This is to combine 3 properties into 2 new lots at 3711 and 6723 Towpath Road. Berkeley Properties LLC is the owner and applicant.
Okay, if the applicant or their representative is here, please come forward.
I just want to make one correction. It is 6711. Oh, hello, Mr. Curtin. 6711 and 6723 Towpath Road.
Let's combine that far apart. Thank you.
67.
Good evening, Paul Curtin, 42 Albany Street, Casanova, New York, formerly a resident of the city of Syracuse. Representing the applicant in this particular matter, it's a 2-lot subdivision out of 3 tax parcels. You may be familiar with it. This is the old Blaslin Bauk engineering facility. It's being subdivided into 2 parcels in order to facilitate the sale of one of them to Liberty Resources. And that's about it. It conforms and complies with zoning. It does not require any variances.
Questions for the applicant? Thank you very much. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. Okay, then we'll declare this hearing closed and move to our next.
The next public hearing is a 3-mile limit subdivision review. This is 3S 1914. This is to combine 2 properties into 1 new lot in the town of Geddes. This is at 301 and 303 Cherry Road, and Richard Fedrizzi is the owner and applicant.
If the applicant is here, please come forward. Or representative. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. No additional speakers here. We'll declare this hearing closed. This application is complete, correct?
Yes. The next public hearing is R 1957. This is a re-subdivision to divide 1 property into 2 new lots at 536 State Fair Boulevard. Butler Properties LLC is the owner and applicant, and this property lies within an industrial Class A zoning district.
Thank you. If the applicant is here, please come to the podium. Applicant or applicant's representative? Were we expecting
We were.
this applicant to be here this evening?
Yes.
Okay.
I would recommend that, because of potential confusion about our normal 6 o'clock, that we hold it till the end.
Sounds like a good way to proceed here. That may in fact be what happened. So we've opened this hearing, we'll maintain it open, and we'll move on to the next one, but we'll return in a little while.
Next public hearing is R 1958. This is on hold. It is not ready to be heard because of extenuating circumstances. So this is a re-subdivision to realign 2 properties into 2 new lots. It did go out in the public notice, so I will announce this in case anyone is here for this. This is 102 and 104 East Kennedy Street. Jermaine Armfield and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are the owners and applicants, and so this will be on hold until further notice. The next public hearing is R 1962.
Heather, I would just recommend that, in case anybody was here, that we call the public to give them a chance to speak for the last case.
Very good, thank you. Yes. So in the matter of R-19-58, the proposed re-subdivision in the 100 block of East Kennedy Street, if there was anyone who is attending tonight who wishes to speak in favor of this proposed re-subdivision, please come forward to offer your comments. And similarly, if there's anyone who was here to speak in opposition to that proposed re-subdivision, please come forward for your comments. Okay, so as Heather indicated, this is on hold until further notice, but it will be publicized again when the application is complete and it's ready for a public hearing.
The next public hearing is R 1962. This is a re-subdivision to combine 2 properties into 1 new lot at 4845 to 4865 and 4877 South Salina Street. Our Lady of Hope Church and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are the owners and applicants, and these properties lie within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
Thank you. If the applicant is here, please come forward.
Thank you. I'm Caitlin Wright, representing the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation. Address is 431 East Fayette Street, Syracuse, New York. We're proposing to sell this piece of property to Our Lady of Hope Church. 4877 South Salina Street is a large landlocked parcel, which, in our opinion, cannot be developed without street access. And they wish to merge it with their property, and their application has stated that they want to maintain it as green space.
Questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you. Are there individuals who wish to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come to the podium. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. We don't have any additional speakers, so we'll close this hearing and move to the next one.
The next public hearing, bless you, is R 1965. This is a re-subdivision to combine two properties into one new lot at 905 and 911 Hawley Avenue. Claire Tuba and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are owners and applicants, and these properties lie within a residential Class A zoning district.
Thank you, Heather. If the applicant is here, please come forward.
Thank you. Again, Caitlin Wright with the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation. Do you need me to repeat the address for the record?
Please, yeah.
431 East Fayette Street, Syracuse, New York. You should have a site plan in front of you showing that we're proposing to sell a 13-foot wide strip of land to Mr. Baugh. The current property line runs down the middle of his driveway. This would move it over 13 feet so that he would own the entirety of that driveway. Our existing property is quite large when you compare it to other city properties, about 63 feet wide and 222 feet deep. And so our intention here, rather than selling him the entire property, is to retain a 50-foot wide parcel that could be used for infill construction at a future date, but allow him to expand his driveway. And part of his proposal is to remove an illegal driveway on the west side of the property.
Questions for the applicant? Thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. So we'll declare the hearing closed. And now, we're going to do something a little different.
Oh. Sorry.
In the interest of time, we think, we're trying to be expeditious about this, but the 8 hearings, or among the 8 hearings that we just held, we're going to circle back and try to take action on these if there's consensus on this body, allowing those presenters and speakers to depart if they wish to. Everyone, of course, is always welcome to stay to the end of this meeting. We don't know when that will be, but this might be a more expeditious way to proceed. So, circling back to the hearings that we just completed before we move on to the rest of our docket, we're looking at 3S-01-23M1, the proposed re-subdivision in the town of Manlius. Is there a motion on this hearing, on this application?
I move approval with a negative declaration.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Our next application is 3S-19-12, the first of 2 re-subdivisions in the town of DeWitt for this evening. Is there a motion on this?
Move to approve with the negative declaration.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That re-subdivision is approved. We move to our second re-subdivision in the town of DeWitt for the evening, 3S-19-13. Is there a motion on this?
Move approval of the negative declaration.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That is approved. Our final 3-mile limit re-subdivision for this evening, this one in the town of Geddes, 3S-19-14. Is there a motion on this?
Motion to approve with a negative declaration.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That re-subdivision is also approved. The next re-subdivision, R-19-57, is the project on State Fair Boulevard in the 500 block. Is there a motion on this?
This is being held because the applicant.
Oh, right. Okay, and since it's not even 6 o'clock yet, we'll continue to hold this. And the next one we are holding because it's not ready for hearing, and again, When this application is complete, it will be re-advertised in the normal process with postcards and on the agenda, so no action at all on that tonight at any time. Now we move to still another re-subdivision, this one in the 4800 block of South Salina, R-19-62. Is there a motion on this?
Move approval of the negative declaration.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Just a point for the record, I'd just like to note that because of the unique circumstances related to the parcel being landlocked and not having street access, that enlarging the property and creating a somewhat larger lot is a reasonable choice for us.
Any other comments? Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Abstentions? That re-subdivision is approved. Our next re-subdivision for this evening is R-19-65 in the 900 block of Hawley Avenue. Is there a motion on this?
Move approval of the negative declaration. Second.
Discussion?
Again, I'd just like to note that the resulting lots are consistent with the block and lot layout in that neighborhood.
Further comments or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So that too is approved. We hope that allows those who are associated with any of those cases to have the opportunity to leave if they wish or need to do so. Meanwhile, we will now resume proceeding through our agenda as outlined.
The next public hearing is R-1960. This is a continuation from September 16th, and this is a re-subdivision to divide two properties into 3 new lots at 825 Comstock Avenue and 123 Stratford Street. Isaac Benishai is the owner and applicant, and they are situated within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
Thank you. I see the applicant is here, please.
Hi, Jim Niddle in Architects. Thanks for having us back again, folks. The last time we were here, I think we met all the objective requirements of zoning. I think there's some discussion about the subjective and the character and feel of the neighborhood. So in closing, I just wanted to point out a few facts about the neighborhood. 29 lots abut Stratford Street right now, share a property with Stratford. Of those 29, 20 of them have a entry that's actually on Stratford, and all 29 of them have a drive that's on Stratford. So that and the fact that while we appreciate the east-west orientation of many of the lots, the reality is this Stratford Street is really a north-south orientation, almost to a house. And also on top of that, we have moved the property, the house at the Comstock level back in line so to maintain that line of housing along Comstock. So it's our feeling that we've actually kept the character and maintained the character and reinforced the character of the east-west orientation of access. One other point, there's 16 out of the 29 lots that actually have an east-west, and every single one of those east-west oriented lots does have a driveway on Stratford as well, and 8 of those actually have an entry directly onto Stratford. So again, as a subjective criteria, we think we've kept the character of the neighborhood. I'm here with Isaac Benishai tonight as well, if you have any questions for the owner himself. Okay.
Let's pause and see if there are questions from the commission on the project. No? Okay. I think we're good. Thank you very much. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come to the podium. Are there individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come forward. So just as a reminder, provide your name and address for the record and your comments.
I've been nominated to go first. Hi, I'm Rebecca Shuey, that's Schewe, resident of 102 Berkeley Drive, just 2 houses away from these lots. And I would, I think, first like to say my opposition to this is that I think this does alter, this proposal to subdivide these lots would significantly change the character of the neighborhood, and I think does not comply with the residential district Class A1 definition. I think the proposal on the board is to create 3 7-bedroom, 4.5 bathroom homes. I think it's pretty clear on its face that this is not going to be these are not going to be single family homes. They're not in keeping with the size and scope of the rest of the homes of the neighborhood, which are mostly 4-bedroom homes. That instead that this is clearly being proposed as a boarding house, room by room rental situation. You can also see that through the proposal to include sprinklers on the 3rd floor, which are not required for single-family homes, but are required for rental units. So that is, I think, a clear indication that this is being proposed not as a single-family home, not a single-family home, which is not in keeping with the zoning or the character of the neighborhood. All current homes do face east-west, and that block that's being proposed to be subdivided is heavily pedestrian trafficked, and adding additional driveways would significantly disrupt that heavy pedestrian traffic between the neighborhood and the university, and also to Ed Smith Elementary, importantly. I think I'll leave it there and leave the rest of my neighbors to speak their piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Jack Goodman. I live at 109 Berkeley Drive. I can see this empty lot from my driveway. I've lived at 109 Berkeley Drive since 1975. Over the past 44 years, there have been changes to my neighborhood, and the most significant change has been that many single-family homes have gone from owner-occupied to student rental units, and that includes several homes in the Berkeley Park historic neighborhood where I live, currently rented to students. This conversion from owner-occupied to rental has resulted in more people, more cars, more activity, more congestion, and more noise. My neighborhood, simply put, is not as residential, not as quiet, and not as peaceful as it once was. To bring this into focus for you, I'll just summarize a few activities that have taken place in my neighborhood in the last 3 weeks. The home 2 houses away to the north from where I live, on the northeast corner of Ostrom and Stratford, on a sunny afternoon you'll find large numbers of students sitting on the porch roof drinking. At the home on the northwest corner of Ostrom Avenue, during a recent weekend party, one partygoer was screaming obscenities in a megaphone. And this past Saturday, just 2 days ago, there was a large get-together on the front lawn of the house 2 houses away from where I live. After everybody left, the lawn was littered with blue and red plastic cups. It is my understanding that the owner of the 2 lots on the corner of Comstock Avenue and Stratford Street wants to build 3 new homes with 7 bedrooms and 4.5 bathrooms per home. Clearly, these are intended to be rental houses. It's the last thing that my neighborhood needs or wants. Please do not allow an absentee, out-of-town landlord to exploit my neighborhood by building 3 new rental homes. I ask you to reject R 1960. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker, please.
My name is Michael Stanton. I live at 315 Berkeley Drive. I'm also the president of the Southeast University Neighborhood Association. I'd like to say right off that we would love to see new single-family homes built in our neighborhood. We'd love even more to see more families living in single-family homes in our neighborhood. These proposed houses are not that, unfortunately. We are in an area zoned A1, the most restrictive of the residential neighborhoods in the city. Let me just read you a little bit of it and ask you to try to give us what that designation is asking for. The general purpose of this residential district is to provide for areas within the city of Syracuse where the living environment associated with a single-family residential development is preserved and or where the development of such environment is encouraged, to encourage the construction of and the continuous use of the land for single-family residential dwellings, to prohibit all business, commercial, and industrial development to the land, and to prohibit any other use which would substantially interfere with or be deleterious to the development of or continuation of single-family dwellings in this district. That's what we're hoping you will be able to do for us. Why aren't these single-family homes? Well, for one thing, the number of bedrooms. It's listed as 6 bedrooms, but there's an office on the first floor that has a closet, that has its own access to the outside, has its own full bathroom next door. So we have 8 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms. How does that compare to the other houses in the neighborhood? The closest one to the north, 821 Comstock, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The one next to that, just to the north, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. The closest houses to the south across, 901 Comstock, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. 126 Stratford, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. 100 Berkeley Drive, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. The largest house in the area is 868 Ostrom on the corner of Stratford and Ostrom. It has 5 bedrooms, big house, 2 fewer than what's being proposed here. Another aspect is the sprinkler systems. How many houses, single-family homes, have sprinkler systems built in? It's not a requirement if the house was to be owner-occupied. It tells me they don't expect to be selling these to owner-occupants. The master bedroom, they're telling us that these are going to go for $400,000 or more each. If you've seen houses in that price range in the suburbs, you know they always have a master bedroom. Bigger bedroom than the others for the kids, of course. It has its own bathroom. It has a large walk-in closet, maybe 2, one for him and her. If you look at the layout of these houses, they're all pretty much the same. They all have pretty meager-sized walk-in closets. None has its own dedicated bathroom. If you want to see something similar to the layout that you see in these houses, look at the new student luxury apartments on East Genesee. Those 4 and 5 bedroom apartments are laid out very much like this. The price, owner says they'll be over $400,000 each. As far as I can tell, there's only one house within half a mile that's ever gone for more than $400,000. That is 100 Windsor Place, which is quite a grand house. It sold for $570,000 in 2013. It has 5,500 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 4 full baths, 3 half baths. It has a large attached conservatory greenhouse, a large in-ground swimming pool. It sits on a lot that's 1.5 acres, and these proposed rooming houses would barely have enough room for a wading pool in their backyard, let alone a real swimming pool. That you can see how a family would pay a premium price for a house like this. It's hard for me to imagine that a family is going to want a house that doesn't even have a special bedroom with attached bath for the main couple in the house. What would be the impacts? Well, parking is one thing. One of the saddest things that happens when you have a single-family house in our neighborhood be turned into a rental is that the garden, the patio, it gets covered with gravel or asphalt, and the backyard becomes a parking lot. The only good thing out of all this is that most of the cars for the tenants in that house now have a place that they can park that doesn't have to spill out onto the street. This proposal would have 21 bedrooms, could be 21 individuals living there, and it'll have 6 garages, which means it's going to put a whole bunch of more cars onto that street looking for a place to park. And most of the streets in this area don't allow parking during the day because so many employees on University Hill would come and park for the day on these streets. And so there's no parking allowed during business hours, let's say. And then finally, the impact of having a dedicated student housing market there. Buildings built for student housing rather than for families. The mayor, when he came to speak to us at our annual meeting this year, said he just had lunch recently with the chancellor, and the chancellor was expressing to him that he would like to see more of the employees of the university, and the Hill for that matter, living within walking distance of campus. And that the university is now working on a program for employee-assisted housing to encourage more employees to buy and live near campus. We've seen over 4,000 new student beds built in the last few years, in addition to what was already there. The large apartment complexes on East Genesee, there's also others throughout the city, and there are more in development now. If you know what happened with Temple Concord, we're waiting to see what happens there. There are landlords who complain that they can't fill all their bedrooms anymore. I've seen a number of houses, a couple, 3 blocks from campus, that's rented to students a couple of years ago, and they're completely vacant today. What happens when we have homeowners come back to this bit of the neighborhood and we have buildings that families aren't interested in? So, in summary, I hope you will find a way through all this to give us family homes at that place, or to turn down this application. Thank you.
The next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Perry Singleton. I'm a resident at 100 Circle Road in Berkeley Park. I would like to speak today in opposition to this proposal. I think there are 2 particular issues with this proposal that Mike had raised, and I would like to reiterate. The first is the block and lot layout. I do believe that the lots that are being proposed are completely inconsistent with the block and lot layouts in the neighborhood. I think it's a little disingenuous to quote the share of homes on Stratford that have driveways onto the street, simply because the lot that they are proposing to build on is not consistent or the same as or comparable to other blocks that are on Stratford. The closest one is block that is comparable is the homes between Ostrom and Livingston. On that block, the lots have an east-west orientation where the homes do face east and west and do not have driveways onto Stratford. The other issue is the size, the actual homes being proposed. I do believe that the size of the homes are also inconsistent with the properties in the neighborhood. 7 bedrooms far exceeds the average home number of rooms in the homes in that area. It's very clear that the homes are not only designed for students, but as many as possible and as tight a dense spot as possible. I will say that I'm not entirely opposed to students renting in or near Berkeley Park. I found many of them to be quite respectful of the owner occupants. The issue is when we have dense concentrations of students renting in our neighborhood, it leads to, for lack of a better word, parties almost every weekend. This past Saturday, I had to occupy myself in the basement because the bass of the radio of someone living behind us, a student rental, was too distracting for me to do my own work in my own home. So I would like to just, again, reiterate that I think on 2 grounds, the lot and block layout, as well as the size of the properties, this particular proposal should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Eric Greenfield, 108 Berkeley Drive. The first question I have is, do the letters that we send to the Planning Commission get entered into the record?
Yes.
So the full comments are there?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just go to one point that has yet not been emphasized, and my issue is with the environmental assessment form. I'm a little worried that with a project like this, while the original subdivision might not necessarily receive a positive declaration, the 2 projects together do. and I don't want to see the environmental impact statement segmented between the two different actions. I take issue with a couple of the questions that were answered on the EAF, including habitat types. There is a neglected portion of the lot that has quite a bit of, has some standing trees on it that are in decent shape. Yeah, they're Norway maples, but they still provide us a great environmental benefit. And that would be one of the other things to draw your attention to in my letter was some of the work that I've even helped with on the urban forestry planning that we're doing here in the city of Syracuse. The other item that I'm concerned about is their relative distance to the historic district, Berkeley Drive, or the Berkeley Park Historic District. I believe it's a 500-foot setback where it does trigger review, and I want to make sure that that gets addressed also. And that one, interestingly enough, I even repeated the process using the environmental assessment form mapper, and I ended up getting a positive answer for that one, not the negative one. So I don't know why necessarily, but again, 500 foot seems reasonable for review. I'll let some of my other neighbors speak to the orientation of those lots. I struggle with that as well, given that there is road access from the alley back there. And I understand that parking enforcement in the neighborhood is tough, but I've also been told, given some other code violations, that that's not the purview of this. But at the same time, I would feel that the applicant also would feel the same obligation to go and ask for the code enforcement or parking enforcement also on the alley. I'm going to leave it with that. I'm going to ask respectfully that you please deny this application based on what you're going to hear from me and the others and the message I already sent in the mail. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Moira McDermott, 324 Berkeley Drive. I also am speaking against this motion. I believe the action proposed in the application is inconsistent with the character of the block and the greater neighborhood, in particular the size of the lots in terms of area, depth, and setbacks, and the orientation of the lots. And I'd like to address the comments made by the architect about the orientation on Stratford. If you take a look at the tax map, it's obvious that they are not consistent with the orientation. I think it's misleading to count the number of lots. If instead we say how many blocks abut Stratford, there are 9. And of those 9, 8 of them have east-west orientation. The only one that has north-south orientation is the block that's between Stratford, Berkeley, and Dorset. And it has sort of a little curve around, and so it's smaller in size, and that's why the houses are going north-south on that block. The 8 other blocks are all going east-west. And if you look at the tax map, it's clear that that's the way the neighborhood goes. Like, they all are that way. And, counting up the small lots on that one block, I think is misleading. I also believe the inconsistency with the neighborhood is more evident if you consider the applicant's potential future action, in particular 3 driveway curb cuts on Stratford. And I just wanted to point out that this is the Planning Commission, and we're supposed to be addressing those, just the planning. But in the subdivision regulations, D3B1, it specifies that the lot dimension should conform with the zoning ordinances. And so what I think that says is that we are allowed to consider issues that might come up in the subsequent hearing regarding zoning, because we wouldn't want to rezone it or re-subdivide it and then only to have the plans be denied further down the line. And I believe that the issue of whether this is appropriate for single-family zoning should be considered, and it clearly is not. I think it's disingenuous to say that these are single-family homes, and we should take that into consideration. Also, I challenge a couple of the answers on the application. In 5A, again, I think it's disingenuous to claim that these are single-family homes, given the what has already been said about that. On question number 6, it's across the street from the Berkeley Park Historic District. And on question 8A, 3 driveways and 18 to 21 additional cars entering and exiting on Stratford, likely illegal parking, I think challenges their answer to that question. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Robert Haley. I live at 137 Buckingham Avenue in the University neighborhood area. Have lived there for almost 50 years now. Formerly walked through the neighborhood on my way to the university as a professor in the School of Architecture. I am an architect. I'm also on the Landmark Preservation Board for the city for quite a few, 25 years now. The pattern of the Syracuse homes in that area is quite distinctive. I speak against this re-subdivision, primarily, and at the same time can say I would love to see development on that corner site. That site has been vacant and empty ever since it was platted more than 100 years ago. The corner site is a big lot, and the site next to it is a smaller lot facing on Stratford. Those two lots probably could take 3 buildings, but as 2 lots. They could probably also take single-family homes, not multiple, almost a boarding house, or what these plans indicate, which is a 6-bedroom to 7-bedroom house. This is not a single-family house, as I see it, and this is where the complication comes between a subdivision, re-subdivision, and a change in zoning. These are zoned 1A, I believe, residential, single-family homes, when in fact the building type that's being shown is more of a commercial venture for multiple student housing. I think that's an incongruity that should not be hidden in a re-subdivision application. And I only say hidden in the fact that I would hope that the Planning Commission can be advised by zoning and the Codes Department as to identify what type of these buildings are and how that classifies these either as a commercial property or a family home, a single-family home. One comment that came up last time was the size. The single-family home that I live in was built just about 100 years ago now on Buckingham, typical of the entire area. The size of my home is about 600 to 700 feet per the first floor. It's a 4-bedroom house. It was built as 4-bedroom house, typical 4 square. The total size of that house is about 12 to 1,300 square feet. This house that's being proposed, each of these houses is 4,448 gross square feet. That's and potentially usable as 7 bedrooms. So it is not a single-family home. That's been the premise that I've been saying all along. I have no opposition to the orientation of the houses in terms of the fact that Stratford had driveways and the other houses are oriented north-south, has been discussed by folks previously. I think also in doing a quick tally, there are 7 bedrooms in each house. There are 4 showers. There's 4.5 baths with 4 showers. There must be 5 showers now that I counted. Yeah, I think there's 5 showers. 5 water closets, 8 sinks, and 12 closets. That's not a single-family home. Having said that, I ask you to speak against the re-subdivision. And of course, we do know that the only thing about this individual plan that's a single family is the garage. It has 2-car garage. That's appropriate for 1 or 2 is appropriate for a single family home. However, there are potentially there are 7 potential drivers in each of those, vying for each of those two parking spaces in those houses. So I ask you to speak against the re-subdivision, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Sidney Kaminsky, 120 Dorset Road. I'll be brief. First of all, these cars are going to be going from Stratford up Berkeley to Tops Market. And by definition, that means we're going to have extra traffic going by at school. And if nothing else, forget about orientation, forget about driveways, don't forget about kids who are walking to school. We're increasing traffic significantly. And other than that, I don't want to repeat everything else that's been said. It's obviously not a single-family home. But I would like the board to take note that all of these people here, or a vast majority, represent the neighborhood and represent opposition to this. And we ask you to deny these applications. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, please.
Kathleen Goodman. I live at 109 Berkeley Drive, and I have lived there since the 70s. I spent my day today driving around because we just generally don't drive through the university. And I started counting up within the last 2 to 3 years the numbers of big, new luxury dorms for the students. I didn't get through the whole part because it took me a long time. I got out, I took pictures of all of these different new housing in the university, and I've come up with 15 so far. I never even got to the west side, and I missed some of the other ones. 14 and 15 are what the university is doing along Ostrom. I told you this last time, I believe, and those buildings, other than the Daily Orange, are down. And as I was coming back to Berkeley, there's another house, but it is on the south side of Euclid and Ostrom. It's a big, beautiful old house. And that's what we're losing. We're just getting homogenized buildings. And I've been to a lot of like zoning meetings, and how we do not really, as a city, recognize that there are plenty of people who have interest in older homes. And Berkeley is a beautiful area. We had a ghost walk on Friday, and the names of people that lived in these homes is amazing. The head of Syracuse, China, the Chapel family, those are just to even name 2. And we want those things preserved because it has history. Kids are not even being exposed to that anymore. And that, I just want you to know, that really bothers me. So I was thinking that maybe a use for the lot that is in contention, the developer could take a tax write-off and turn it into a park and use his name. Because we don't have enough urban greenery. We're losing it all the time. These places, like, it's going to be on Ostrom, what the university is doing, and now going on the other side of Ostrom and moving down towards Berkeley. It just gets bigger and bigger with less and less green space. People need green space. And the trees come down, and it looks like New York City, not Syracuse, New York, not in this area. And there are a minimum of 15,000 cars driven by students in our small little area. And that's another reason that I have to beg you to really consider. And I would volunteer to take any one of you around and show you what I'm talking about. Go up and down the streets, and you can count up how many brand new buildings, big buildings have been developed. We don't need more of that, even little ones. Thank you very much for listening, and
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come forward, sir.
Hi, I'm Gary Winslow. I'm from 306 Berkeley. I don't have anything to add over the other people who have made complaints, and I want to add my name to that. But I thought, since not everyone's having a chance to talk, can we have a show of hands from the neighborhood, maybe, who were people who are opposed to the project? Is that okay?
Yes, we just did. Thank you.
That's a little difficult to capture. What I would recommend, if you have, if you agree with comments that have already been said, but you don't have anything to add, if you would like to just stand up and state your name and address for the record and say that you concur with what's been said, I think that would be pretty efficient.
Alice Burnett, 306 Berkeley Drive. I concur with my neighbors.
Do you want us to all go up? Yes, please.
Brenda Greenfield, 108 Berkeley Drive, and I concur with my neighbors.
Carol Borg, 943 Comstock Avenue, and I concur with my neighbors.
Will Sudreth at 100 Circle Road, and I also concur with my neighbors.
Terry Walsh, 838 Livingston Avenue, and I concur with my neighbors.
Jane Hudson, 833 Livingston Avenue. I concur with my neighbors.
Harold Mattson on Dorset Road. I concur, and now that I'm here, I'd like to comment further that our applicant has not been a good neighbor. He has never shoveled his sidewalk in all these years. It was a terrible sidewalk, broken, heaving, underwater. Finally, the city made him fix it just in the past month. There's a slope on Berkeley Drive, on Stratford Street, a steep slope which has never been cut except when I complain to the city, and once in a while the city will cut it. But the weeds grow. They are ignored except by people who are looking for a place to get rid of litter, which accumulates. So I'm sorry, but I think that our applicant has not shown any concern for the neighborhood whatsoever. Thank you.
Catherine Newton, 311 Berkeley Drive. I'm a new neighbor, one of the many people who is flowing into Syracuse and experiencing the city as a resident rather than a commuter. I concur with my neighbors and add that since I walk to work and back on many days, the most dangerous point in my transit is the intersection immediately beside where the 3 new driveways are planned. I'm concerned about that, and thank you for your time.
Are there any other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, I think we've covered that base, and so we return to the applicant. The podium is yours. Pardon me? Absolutely. I'm just saying the applicant.
You can speak in response and just say your name for the record and address.
Right.
Hi, my name is Isaac Benishai, 825 Comstock Avenue, 123 Stratford. Well,
your business or residence address is needed for the record.
oh, pardon me, 242 West 103 Street, New York, New York, 10025.
Thank you.
I'm a little unprepared. I wasn't prepared to get up here and speak today. The last time I was this unprepared was speaking at my son's circumcision, and needless to say, the circumcision went a little bit better than my speech, so I apologize in advance. Wow, you guys don't like me. Really? But this isn't a popularity contest. I want to share with you, and I wasn't planning on sharing this today, but I've been called disingenuous by my neighbors, and so I offer into the record an email that I had sent to the Vice Chancellor of Syracuse University, Michelle Wheatley. And this was written on January 17th, 2019. Not good with math, but 9 months ago, 10 months ago. I've been following the progress of both the signature and cluster hires initiatives. Better with off the stand anyway. I've been following the progress of both the signature and cluster hires initiatives under the Invest Syracuse plan. As a Syracuse University alumnus, Cy Newhouse School of Public Communications, Broadcast Journalism, class of 2010, and hopefully I'm doing my professor proud today. I have a deep appreciation for your investment in the development of a great tenured faculty. My fondest memories as a student were of classes taught by the likes of biology professor Dr. Marvin Druger.
Oh, just
and
make
history.
sure you're addressing the commission rather than the audience.
Oh, pardon me.
I know. Thank you.
I feel like I'm speaking to both.
Yeah, I
but
understand.
I'll turn respectfully to the Planning Commission. My fondest memories as a student were of classes taught by the likes of biology professor Dr. Marvin Druger, who I'm sure some of people in this room remember taking classes with or learning under or learning with, and history professor David Bennett, who is also or was a resident of, I'm not sure still, of the Berkeley neighborhood, who dedicated themselves to the university and to its students. Again, I remind you that this was written on January 17th, 2019. On a recent visit to Syracuse, I noticed the boom in student housing construction in and around campus. But despite all of the construction, I noticed the lack of great quality single-family housing in the immediate vicinity. In fact, there hasn't been a planned single-family housing concept in this area in over 70 years, which is the average age of a home in the Berkeley neighborhood. While attending Syracuse University, I purchased 2 parcels of land on the corner of Comstock Avenue and Stratford Street. Today, and I guess it's pertinent today, I'm still in the process of obtaining building permits and approval from the city of Syracuse for single-family residences. These residences, when presented to faculty with family, would serve as a cornerstone for attracting the best to Syracuse University. Would you be available to discuss the possibility of a collaboration to help achieve the university's goals under both hiring initiatives? Disingenuous. I want to thank the Planning Commission. It's not easy to hear month in and month out people getting up and owners getting up in front of you, exercising their property rights, and asking for permission for a project, and you have to do your due diligence, and sometimes you have to say no. And other times you say yes, but you have to be critical, you have to come with a critical eye, and that's the best. That's what makes this city beautiful. In my time here, the 4 years that I was here at Syracuse University, and subsequently when I owned rental homes that, in previous meetings were, I love this city. I really do. And this project is a difficult one to review because it's my integrity that's being called into question by people who don't know me at all. They just don't know me. And I'm actually taken aback by how this project has been vilified in this room this evening and in subsequent hearings. And I thank you for the time that you have spent thus far in allowing Jim, who's acted on my behalf, and he's done a tremendous job, an effective job, Jim Niddle in Architects, of effectively delivering my message, which has been all along. I do not want to be a landlord. If I wanted to be a landlord, I would still be a landlord here. I want to be a landlord where I live, which is in New York, not in Syracuse. If I wanted to be a landlord, I would still own my homes on the hill. I do not. I want to sell these homes as single-family, owner-occupied homes. And I find it disingenuous and frankly rude for someone and multiple people from the neighborhood, of my neighbors in the Berkeley neighborhood, who've come up here and said, well, a family doesn't need 6 bedrooms. Well, in fact, I have 2 kids and I have another one on the way. And my belief system calls for more children. Be fruitful and multiply. That's what I believe in. So it's very interesting in talking about being disingenuous who I've heard tonight a lot of people saying I'm being disingenuous when I want to build a 4,400 square foot home for people for families who you're losing to Fayetteville, and you're losing to Manlius, and you're losing to DeWitt, and you're losing to downtown Syracuse, because there isn't quality housing in the university. And I'm offering to larger families, and you're telling me that's not a typical family. Shame on you. Shame on you. I didn't expect to get so emotional about this. But when my integrity is called into question, I must defend myself. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. Thank you very much for giving me your time. And I hope at the end of this evening, you vote in favor of the proposal that's in front of you to re-subdivide these properties and allow me to build what I have set out to build with integrity. Thank you very much.
Madam Legal Counsel, we've heard from speakers on both sides of this application tonight. I think there's nothing further outstanding and that we're in a position to close this hearing.
I would just recommend that perhaps the design expert address specific comments. I noticed you were taking notes, so if you had any comments that you wanted to make in rebuttal, I would recommend that opportunity.
Okay. Sir, please.
Yeah, sure, just a couple. The sprinkler issue that came up, it's common to sprinkle homes today, and the code does require, if we have a habitable space on that third level, that we sprinkle. So that's just building code. That's not indicative of student housing. The numbers I quoted as far as the lot sizes and the lot orientations are accurate. I'm looking at a tax map the same as everyone else, so I don't know. The facts are the facts here. So there are 6 bedrooms laid out, not 7. There are 4 parking spots, 2 in the garage, and just enough room for 2 in the driveway. So those are just the thing. You know, the notes I've taken here. People have been claiming 7 bedrooms, 8 bedrooms. I think I heard at one point as well. So just want to go on the record.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And with that, I think we've heard from everyone in the room this evening who was interested in speaking either way. And I think we're in a position now to close this hearing and move to our next hearing. Heather, please.
The next public hearing is SP 1919. This is a special permit for used motor vehicle sales and light-duty motor vehicle repair. This is at 608 to 610 Hiawatha Boulevard East. Jamal Algarguli is the owner and applicant. It's a commercial Class A zoning district, and this is a continuation from September 16th.
This is what he's bringing now. Evening.
One quick minute while we get some paper in front of us.
No problem. They should have been delivered earlier.
Yes.
Earlier.
This is, wait, this is for the last.
Oh, okay.
I think we're situated. Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Tom DiTullio. I'm representing Mr. Alieri. I believe the last time we were at the meeting, there were some issues that we'd like to resolve and to modify. I believe Ms. Ryan and Ms. Allen were looking for planting plans so we could show where we're going to put our plants along our 5-foot strip that's on our side or the lot side. They wanted the sidewalk up adjacent to the plot line. which has been moved over. And based upon my little laser, which is good for like 1/1000th of an inch, for about 6 inches away from where we were originally. So the sidewalk right now is about 5 feet off the property line toward the city road, toward the street line. So when we readjust it, we'll slide out over abut the property line. So we'll have a little more larger green space and some plow area for snow area along both sides of the street, both 2nd Ave, 2nd North Ave, and Hiawatha Boulevard. And you wish to see some photographs, I've included some photographs from the middle of the property in a direction going 360 degrees, and then also from the outside looking forward. Now hopefully the ones that say looking west, they're all taken from, looking from is the interior of the property looking outward. And I apologize for the dark one on top. The sun did not cooperate with me that time, the clouds rather. But the rest of it were pretty good. We're adjacent to an industrial property across the street. And I also have the two-family residence that's adjacent to the property. That's in the 3rd page. And then our only other residential property is the one that we can actually see from looking across the street, which is that gray structure with the Parmigiano moving van adjacent to it. So our proposed changes are to move the building from the northeast side to the northwest side and align it with the houses along 2nd Avenue. 2nd North Street, excuse me. Then creating our green buffer between the sidewalk and the building and giving us basically a 5-foot spread on 2nd Ave rather. So we can align much with the front porches. And that way our green barrier is basically 3 plants that we'd like to put in, possibly 4. And the types would be arborvitae, which would be a global type arborvitae. There'd be about 30 inches at its maturity. Then a dense spreading yew, which again would be about 30 inches at its maturity. And a cotton ester, which is a pretty little plant with a beautiful red leaves and little purple leaves when it blooms, so we'll have a little color there. And then possibly some burning bushes, which there's a classification which I can't remember. So we can slow down some of the traffic going through my bushes. So decrease foot traffic there. And because we moved the sidewalk over, we've increased the area which, according to our development plan that the city has in plan for the Hiawatha Boulevard area, is they like to do some street plantings, which would be in the right-of-way between the curb and to the sidewalk. So we've increased that by 5 feet so we can have a little more room in which the trees can actually survive. I believe those are the major issues that we're looking at, and reducing one of the signs. We had a sign on the short side of the building which was now facing 2nd North Street. We've removed that one and just kept the one over the 3 maintenance bays or prep bays. Go ahead, Ms. Ryan.
So you don't need a sign waiver?
No, we don't need a sign waiver.
Questions for the applicant?
I just want to clarify. It says in our report we need a sign waiver, but we don't need a sign waiver because of what's just been submitted?
Change where the sign is going?
No, we reduced we had 2 signs up originally. One on the short side, which is the office space up above. We removed that one. That's one of the comments that the board wanted to see. And it's only on one wall, which is facing Hiawatha.
It's on the elevation.
The long face.
Okay. On the 4/2019 elevation?
Should be the 928. Do you have that one? I do believe that they were attached with the photographs I dropped off.
This is on this one?
Oh, I didn't date it for you. I don't like you guys that much. So I apologize. You should have the new updated one. It should say 4/2019. Yes, I didn't put a revision date on that.
With one wall sign.
So we could assume this was revised 9/28/19 as well.
Yeah, that's probably on one of those little text layers I turned off by accident.
Okay.
You gotta love technology.
No, it just for keeping track. Thank you.
not an issue.
So again, there is no sign waiver needed?
Correct, there's no sign waiver needed.
Just want to make sure. So that from a size perspective, we're all set. 16 by 2 is 30.
So it looks like it's 32 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's under 40, so yes.
Yeah. And you went down, I'm sorry, and you went down to the one curb cut.
Correct, we removed the other curb cut off the Second Avenue.
Okay.
We pulled the building down toward the road somewhat, about 10 feet closer, which kind of aligns with the buildings to our west. And the one residential one is basically 9 feet off the edge of the off the sidewalk now. So if the sidewalk is approximately 4 feet into the right-of-way off the property line, then the house is probably 2.5 feet off the property line. That one residence, that's the gray one-family house next to Parmigiano moving. So to align it with that one would be in violation of the setbacks we'd have to have anyways to move it all the way forward.
So what about alignment with?
It's aligned with the Second North Street residences. So the white, and that's not just a white one. There are multiple ones. If you were to walk down the street and do it just by eye and sight, they vary about 2 feet back and forth, and the front porch is sticking out, anywhere between 4 and 6 feet from the edge of the property line. So we're setting the face of the building at where the face of the structures would be, not where the porches are. But our green area and our lawn and our sidewalk give us like the front yard area that you would have where the porches would be. So we're going to be closer than the White House adjacent to us.
You're closer to the public sidewalk.
Correct.
So you're not in line with the face.
We're in line with the other houses that are beyond that. This one seems to be pushed back a little bit more than the other houses adjacent to it, kind of.
Thank you.
You're aligned with the porch rather than...
Yeah, with that one, I'm aligned with the porch on that one versus the structures on the other one.
Further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. We don't have...
Okay. Hi, everybody. Earlier in the week, my name is Bridget Monroe Moore. I live at 711 2nd North Street, Syracuse, New York, 13208. So earlier this week, we dropped off another PowerPoint, and it was to give you an idea of the neighborhood and the houses that are there, and all of the used car lots that are in that area. There are a lot of them, 8, but they're more unlisted. On our block, where they're talking about putting the 608, 610 Hiawatha, where that building would be, the used car building that would repair as well, that would put one business on, this is opposing our house, right? The other block. There would be a business on one corner on Hiawatha and 2nd North, and then at the other end of that same block, there's also a car, I guess, collision repair. In between the two businesses, there are 6 homes, one of which is up for demolition. But anyway, so the PowerPoint, I say, car dealerships more than meets the eye. You need to look at that. It'll give you an idea of what's going on in that area. So I'll get back to what I wanted to do. I've written down what I feel is important as to keep me focused and respectful of your valuable time. Another used car lot and building for repairs is not an investment in a neighborhood. People do not look to have a home next to a used car lot. Businesses look for a future based on ROI, return on investment. Cities and all those who plan them and foster their growth have a mission based on balancing needs for all. Those plans are not valued, much less noticed by some. I'm referring to corners that used car businesses occupy in this particular area. The corner of First North and 430 Hiawatha, the location of New Millennium Auto Broker, is just one example of many. While the city installs a crossing for pedestrians with a curb cut for consideration of wheelchairs, strollers, motorized chairs, and pedestrians, used car businesses disrespect that city plan by choosing hard fill or tarvia over commissioning a sidewalk. Homeowners maintain sidewalks often placed on their taxes. These businesses will not respect the vision of any planning board. The only vision an auto business has is that of profit, not improvement of a neighborhood. Being clear, auto dealerships in this area have a negative effect on a neighborhood by obstructing views for safe passage, adding to congested traffic, or adding to traffic, devaluing neighbor homes, obliterating green spaces, failing to maintain or provide sidewalks, blocking pathways, sidewalks with parked cars, encroaching on neighbors by commercial sprawl. If, like I say, I also sent this to y'all.
Have a copy.
Yeah, I deviated a little bit. But seriously, if you just take a walk in the neighborhood, there's two dealerships. They're opposing each other. In New Millennium, they took a lot, 3 homes, demolished them, cars everywhere. There's about 40 or so on that lot. And then they have their home office. And then behind that is a little driveway that they have other parked cars. But I noticed in taking pictures of these corners and intersections that they'll have the hard fill there, and there's this pedestrian button and a curb cut for people to use a sidewalk, but they won't put a sidewalk in. It's fine to put in arborvitaes and burning bushes and all that. They're not going to maintain them. I have enough examples in that area just to prove it. You really can't take a person's word. And I don't want to say that they won't, that's mean-spirited to say that. They might. But chances are, if you look around the neighborhood and you see how the other car dealerships are, what would be their motivation to make it nice? So, I don't know, I've yammered too much. Again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you listening to me. Ooh, sorry.
The next speaker, please.
Hi, April Moore, 711 2nd North Street. And I have the same exact sentiments. I tell you, within 1 mile radius, every corner seems to be filled with used cars. It's such an eyesore, And this lot that they're trying to develop, you have people going to the ballpark. They park on the streets. The streets are filled with parking. And with the traffic congestion and so forth, I can't even imagine putting another one there. Car repair shops. You have one block up, and then within another block, another one. And within another block, a couple more. I mean, how much more do you need, really? really, you know? And, you know, you get to the point where it's just so depressing. It really is. And I don't understand how this is allowed, truly. That's all I have to say. And I have a person who lives next to the car lot. She's deaf, so I'm going to be interpreting for her. Okay? My name is Mary Ann Meeks. I live at 1618 First North Street in Syracuse, New York. I've been living in that home for, actually I was born in 1946, and I'm 73 right now. I prefer to have a nice home, and everything is all over, all cars. My feelings are hurt. I don't feel it's a safe area for, you know, children or people walking to the mall or to the market. I feel very bad. I want to keep the area clean. And there's like no houses, nothing, you know, nothing good. You know, across the street, there was actually 3 houses that were there at one time. And neighbors and so forth, nice Italian people, friendly people. And now, just cars, and it hurts my feelings, you know. I feel very sad. Actually, there's 5 properties, 3 houses that are gone, and then 2 on Hiawatha. And next door is Millennium Auto Brokers. And I have stockade fencing. And you know what they did? They put up signage on my fence, my stockade fence, you know? And then what they're telling me, we want to take your house too. And I said, no, I'm keeping my home. Because, you know, this is where my parents live, my family. And now you look at everything. It really hurts my feelings. You know, I feel that the neighbors aren't good, you know? It's just bad. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker, please.
My name is Catherine Cullivan. I'm the acting president of Washington Square Neighborhood Association. I agree with everything that was just said. Just 2 more things. The neighborhood. I'm sorry, 1104 First North Street.
Thank you.
The Washington Square Neighborhood Association members have addressed to me that they don't have any faith that this type of property, this car lot, will be maintained in any other way than that the other ones are, that they will not adhere to codes or city ordinances. And I just understand just now that when the rezone project is done or finalized, these types of properties will not be allowed. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Wandersee. I'm the Executive Director of NEDA, 101 Gertrude Street, 13203. I'm here to support the Washington Square Neighbors Association and the ladies who've spoken tonight. I certainly appreciate your comments about creating an aesthetically pleasing situation and the green space and the plants, and that's heartening to hear. I think my major concern is around a concentration of car lots in this neighborhood. At this point, right now, the city's doing business corridor studies around Wolf Street and North Salina and asking for community input around a vision for these business districts. Hiawatha is basically, a block away from this, and Catherine and some of these ladies are involved in this business visioning, and a concentration of one kind of business, especially one that has such a strong physical impact, I believe will be detrimental to the overall neighborhood, and particularly the business corridors in this neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to this application? If so, please come to the podium. I don't see any other speakers, so we'll return to the applicant and offer you the opportunity to address some of these comments made in opposition.
Well, I understand their concern about local neighborhoods. Presently, with the zoning requirements and what's allowed to be designed and developed on that, we fit the actual use of it, even though special permits are special permits, they're still permitted use. As to whether or not the property will be maintained as it's designed, it is my intent and also the owner's intent to maintain it. And one question is, why would he want to maintain something like that? And the whole idea, this is part of the original project, part of the original program. So when we put this in here, the next project that comes available now has a footprint for us. We become the initiating part of how to develop the land along the properties around there. Because presently, we can almost see what it is now. There is some deteriorated areas around there that need to have some upgrade. So unless we start doing it initially the way we need to do it, the way it's been designed and developed to be done that way, we have to start somewhere, and we're offering to do that. There are many items there that we've done that are costing him money to put in there. And it'll be expensive to maintain plantings. I won't deny that. And we're probably going to lose 20% every year because we know how much salt gets put on the roads of Syracuse, and it won't do it any good. But because we can do different ground coverings around the plants, we can do non-growing ones such as myrtle or pachysandra, which can give us our green area and cover it underneath the plants and still maintain a very aesthetically pleasing area. And they have to be trimmed anyways, because we don't want tall bushes in front of our vehicles because you can't see the cars to sell them. And they have to be maintained, so the aesthetics and the appearance is everything that brings people in to purchase vehicles from. Because if they can't take care of his lawn, why would you want to buy a car from them? Pretty simple.
Thank you very much. Before we close the hearing, Heather, I just want to confirm that any updated materials reflecting changes are part of the file, and
Yes.
Okay, and we have clarification on those. Okay, in that instance, we'll close this hearing and move to our next public hearing.
The next public hearing is PS 1901. This is a protected site designation at 429 North State Street. Tino Marcoscia is the owner, and the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board is the petitioner, and its property lies within a commercial Class A zoning district.
Thank you. If the applicant is here.
Good evening. My name is Kate Alliter. I am I'm staff to the Landmark Preservation Board, and I'm here representing the board this evening. My address, 201 East Washington Street, 13202. The Landmark Preservation Board is petitioning the Planning Commission this evening to approve and recommend to the Common Council that the property at 429 North State Street, also known as the Angeloro Building, be designated a local protected site. The Angeloro Building was constructed in 1904 by Angel Angeloro, who immigrated to Syracuse from Italy in the 1890s. Angeloro was in the first wave of Italian immigrants to arrive in the city and who settled in what became known later as Little Italy on the city's north side. Angeloro was a successful businessman who owned and or built several properties, including this property and the other named Angeloro Building, which backs onto this one on South Pearl Street. When constructed, 429 North State Street housed a saloon on the ground floor and apartments on the upper floors. According to the family history, Angeloro helped new Italian immigrants, to get a foothold in the community by providing lodging and connections to new work opportunities in their new community. In addition to its association with the early Italian immigrant community in Syracuse, this building has important associations with Syracuse brewing history as well. It's possibly the only remaining sample house for the Bartels Brewing Company. And Bartels was a major local brewery that helped bring Syracuse to regional prominence in the brewing history, or the brewing industry history here. As a sample house, only Bartels would have been sold at the saloon, and the company most likely had a hand in the construction of at least the bar, if not the building itself. Let's see, it is an excellent example of early 20th century commercial architecture with a high degree of architectural integrity. One of the striking features of this building is its yellow brick facade, which makes it distinct among other commercial properties along North State Street and North Salina Street business corridors. Probably one of the reasons why it retains such good integrity, in fact, is because its uses have really not changed over time. It has remained either a bar or a restaurant with apartments above. Earlier this year, the property owner of 429 North State Street informed the Landmark Preservation Board that he proposed to demolish the property for a new mixed-use development. The property is listed in the city's historic properties list as architecturally significant, as well as eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. So in accordance with Part C, Section 7, Article 8 of the zoning ordinance, the LPB commenced a review to determine whether the property should be considered for designation as a local protected site. The LPB held a public hearing in this regard on July 18th of this year. Based upon the review of the materials and testimony provided at the public hearing, the LPB determined that the building met 3 of the 5 criteria for designation, and just to note that a building or site need only meet 1 of those criteria for designation. And the LPB felt it met 3, and those include criterion 1 for association with persons of historic significance to the city, and that would be specifically Angela Angeloro and the Angeloro family. Criterion 2, for its association with historic growth and development of the city, specifically its association with the 20th century immigrant history, as well as the city's brewing history. And finally, criterion 3 for its architecture. As I said, it remains an excellent example of early 20th century architecture, retaining its integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, as well as association. I'll end here and thank you for your consideration of this petition, and wondered if you had any questions. Happy.
Let's see. Are there questions for the applicant concerning the application? Okay. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come to the podium, provide your name and address and your comments.
Excuse me. I'm George Angeloro. I live at 15 Sunset Terrace, Baldwinsville, New York. I am the great-grandson of Angelo Angeloro, who built this building. Angelo came to this country in the early 1890s. By the mid-1890s, he had already opened a grocery store and a tavern on this location. In 1904, he was successful enough to build the building that is in question today. That building has a cornerstone that's kind of unique right in the center between the second and third floor. It says A. Angeloro 1904, but in the center is actually a beer barrel, which attests to the fact that this was built as a tavern. This wasn't just a row house or apartment building. This was built as a tavern. In those days, the breweries all had what were called tied houses. The bars and taverns, restaurants were tied to specific breweries, and that meant that they could only sell that brewery's brand of product. This was opened as the Crown Cafe. Crown because Bartels' major beer at that time was Crown Bartels. The back bar of this restaurant, actually in the mirror, had Bartels' logo, the B with the Crown Bartell Brewing Company, Syracuse, New York, in it. Hanging in that was a large lithograph of the Bartell Brewing Company, which fortunately I still have today. That's stayed in the bar all those years. Syracuse has not been very good to the architectural brewing history. Most of the breweries have been lost, unfortunately. The few remaining are in either dire shape, which would be the Zetz Brewery, would be undistinguishable. The Greenway Brewery, which was across the street from Niagara Mohawk, is now an Art Deco building, and obviously it was not when Bartell Brewing Company was built, no, Greenway Brewing Company was built in those days. So I think it's significant from that point of view. But also, that was the center of the Italian community. My great-grandfather was one of the very early Italian immigrants to come to this country, and he sponsored Italian family after Italian family to come to this country, live in that building and the building he built behind. And I can't tell you over the years how many families have stopped me and said, I lived in your great-grandfather's building. Your great-grandfather brought my great-grandfather to this country, sponsored him, found him a job until they were able to buy their own home. The regional market was just behind on Pearl Street, and when I grew up, you'd walk Pearl Street, and there was meat places, and there was a chicken place there where they actually had the chickens hanging in the window, those kinds of things. This was the center of the Italian community. And I think it's important to preserve these remaining remnants of what was there. This is a neoclassic building also, which there aren't a lot of these smaller commercial neoclassic. Most of the neoclassics are bigger commercial buildings, but this is a smaller commercial block, so I think it's significant from that point of view as well. So I strongly urge you to list this on your register of protected properties.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Link Logan. I work for Center State CEO's North Set Up program at 115 West Fayette Street. I already have submitted something, so I'm just going to read a little bit from the end of it. With the loss of 4 buildings within the North Salina National Historic District in August of 2018, it would be a shame to lose another historic building. In addition to the fire, other incidents of unnecessary demolition and property disinvestment have contributed to an erosion of our historic fabric that we must guard against, particularly at a time when other communities, indeed other neighborhoods in the city of Syracuse, are leveraging their historic assets as foundational for successful revitalization efforts. A recent example of blending new and historic development is the Sylvester Building project on the corner of Irving and Fayette Streets. North Set Up and its partners worked with developers of the Dunkin' Donuts project to create one that met both parties' goals. We stand by, ready to work with the developer to create a successful project on this site, one that incorporates the existing structure while searching for creative ways to implement a transformational project that increases property and tax values on the north side. We strongly urge you to designate this as a local protected site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Wandersee, Executive Director of NEDA. We're at 101 Gertrude Street, 13203. We work closely with the Northside Business Partnership, and without reading my entire letter to you, because much of it echoes Jonathan's letter, we believe that Syracuse's Little Italy neighborhood on the north side is one of our community treasures, and we have a responsibility to protect its unique character. We see this building as essential to continuing that. Although we support new development, we want to see development projects that enhance the north side neighborhood and business corridor and leverage our existing buildings that promote the character and sorry, I've lost track because I'm not reading you my letter, but the essential intrinsic value of the historic nature of this neighborhood. Our Northside business owners love the community and work together to protect and improve our physical space. The clients we work with consistently vocalize their desire to see the structural character and beauty of the neighborhood preserved, even as we do create new housing and businesses. Thank you. Ma'am, do I submit this to you, Heather?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I didn't get it to you in advance.
Good evening. My name again is Bob Haley, 137 Buckingham Ave, Syracuse, New York. Member of the Landmark Preservation Board for 25 years. I want to come here to support our good staff, Kate Auer, and her terrific job that she does for our 9 members of the Landmark Board in reporting and carrying forward the mission of the board, which is to support you with experts' view of properties relative to their future for the city. This is a future resource. This building is a terrific building. And I speak as an architect, and I also speak to just the pure quality of a building like this in terms of irreplaceability. It is, as it's been spoken to for family history, it meets 3 of the 4 of the 5 criteria. But as a character of a building, it's intact, almost as it was originally. It has strong family connections. Every time he tells the story, I like to hear it again. The importance as a piece of architecture is that it's authentic to the period exactly. It's intact, the uniqueness. It hasn't been modified. It's also a corner building, so that the building has 2 faces, not just the street facade, which is typical of the buildings we lost on North Salina that was spoken to, but turns the corner and goes down the hill. It's part of the original landscape change from the old lower canal that went behind it and the market that went along the canal. These are significant buildings. This is a type of project that you don't want to lose for the future of the city, and it should be informative to the new projects that come on that site and adjacent to it. So I strongly speak to the designation as a protected site and as a true treasure for the city of Syracuse's future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker, please.
My name is Catherine Cullivan, 1104 First North Street. I'm the acting president of the Washington Square Neighborhood Association. We strongly support the preservation of this building. Thank you.
Other individuals to speak in favor of this application, please come forward. I think everyone who wanted to speak in that category has done so. Are there individuals who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Please come to the podium. Provide your name, address, and your comments.
I can't deny that the building is wonderful, but what we're missing is...
So you're on,
Oh, sorry. Shillowweed, Group 1 Design, 317 South Collingwood Avenue in Syracuse, New York. Eastwood. But what hasn't... We plan on developing an entire block. The building's gorgeous. I'm well aware that there's ways to incorporate the existing building with new construction, and I would rise to the occasion. We are looking at the demolition for this building because we're interested in lower level parking beneath the building. Currently, we're planning on replacing the restaurant in the corner with a corner restaurant. We planned on reusing the cornerstone, the bar, the mirror in the new building. The people who own the restaurant or run the restaurant now, they're well aware that, we're looking to develop the whole block. Tino Marcoscia is the owner, and he owns the 4 adjacent properties that are vacant. There's nothing on them. And we've done some research, and the parking along that road is very difficult. We're working with St. Joe's to get doctor's office physical therapy on the main floor. There's not great parking on Belden, and we feel that the lower level parking will be a plus. And sadly, because of the foundation and the location of the existing building, we wouldn't be able to incorporate underground parking or lower level parking below this. We plan on 30 to 40 apartments on the upper levels, and we would work closely with, planning in the city and zoning to, develop the building to be, something appropriate for the neighborhood. But so that's what I have to say. We want to develop the whole block, and we want lower level parking, and the foundation for that building is, I hate to say, in the way, but so that's why we're looking to develop the entire block. Otherwise, we have 4 vacant parcels that are just going to be vacant. So, any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come to the podium to provide your comments. I don't see anyone else indicating the desire to speak tonight. And having heard everyone, we'll close this hearing and move to our next hearing.
The next public hearing is SR 0308M2. This is a site plan review for an antenna at 918 Euclid Avenue. Irwin First Methodist Church is the owner, and Centerline Communication is the applicant. This lies within a residential Class A and residential Class AA zoning district.
Hello, my name is Kelly Cross. I'm the project manager for Centerline Communications LLC at 750 West Center Street, Suite 301, West Bridgewater, Massachusetts, 02379. We're proposing an equipment upgrade for New Singular Wireless at their existing telecommunication facility at Irwin First Methodist Church. I'm going to open it up to any questions you have, since this falls under the 6409.
Are there any photos of the existing conditions?
Can I approach?
This shows existing, and the next page would be what we're looking to propose. We have 9 antennas up right now, and we're proposing to move 9 antennas and
Replace them with 6. So we're actually reducing the number of antennas. I think I have another copy too. Here, let me show that.
Too big. You can just go down. And does staff have these? Do you all have these?
I don't think so. No, those weren't a requirement in the application. I just brought those for you.
Photos aren't a requirement for our applications?
Not on a.
Oh.
But we can update that. I know the commission has asked for photo simulations in the past, so I think if we put that on our application as a requirement.
At a minimum, photos of existing conditions, but this is not just for you. I mean, yeah, I think we need to be consistent with that.
Yep.
Because even if we use one of the map functions, they're not always current, so that would just be helpful. And they are. So they're currently a white color?
Yes.
And
They didn't match the steep.
new ones will be as well?
Yes. They're bigger, but there's less of them. So rather than having 2 small ones stacked on top of each other, we have 1. And there'll be 6 rather than.
Yeah, have them look at this one.
Yeah, this one's a little.
I mean,
on the west
I
side.
think this one's a little brighter, so you can see it a little bit.
Oh, you've got the set, okay. Okay, the photos are helpful. Further questions?
Welcome.
No, I'm all set.
No further questions, thank you.
And you're complete with your presentation then, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you.
I can come back for any questions if anyone has any.
We'll find out momentarily if there are any comments in opposition, but let me first ask if there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of the application. If so, please come to the podium to provide your comments. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come forward. No, it doesn't look like we have any additional speakers. The application is complete. We'll close the hearing and move to our next, well, actually, we're going to surprise Heather with a little change, and we're doing things a little differently this evening. And I think there is some consensus among the commission members to do another review of the hearings just held, because there might be relatively prompt action on some of these that would then allow people associated with these applications to leave if they choose to do so. So we left off at item number 8, a re-subdivision. We continued with item 9, another re-subdivision, Comstock Avenue, R-19-60. We closed this hearing after hearing from speakers of both positions. Is there a motion on this application?
1960?
Yes.
I move to deny the application on the grounds that the proposed lots are not appropriate in terms of size, width, depth, shape, and orientation with the location, the neighborhood, or for the type of development and the use proposed.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Did we forget something?
I was just going to ask if you wanted to go into any more detail to explain why you feel it's inconsistent, just for the record.
Sure, as part of discussion, I would say that on all the streets, the corner lots are orientated east-west, not north-south. And in the rare occasion where there is a north-south lot, it's not of this shape or size. They're much larger. And that the proposed use is inconsistent in terms of the size of the housing that's proposed for the lots that are indicated. Yeah, in terms of the number of bedrooms that are proposed and the size of the lots in that location.
Thank you.
Next, special permit on Hiawatha Boulevard East, SP-19-19. This hearing was also closed. There were speakers involved in this application. Is there a motion on this item?
Approval of declaration. And there wasn't. This is one where they did not need a sign. Is that right? Did not need a sign waiver.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? The special permit is approved. We move to the protected site designation on North State Street, PS-19-01. Is there a motion on this?
Move to approve. Do I need to do negative declaration for this one? Because we're just recommending.
I think it's a type 2.
Still.
I'll throw that in there in case we need it.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The designation is approved. This now moves on to the Common Council in the form of a recommendation with final authority for designation by the Common Council. And the last hearing we just held, SR-03-08M2, the project site plan review for the Euclid Avenue installation of the antennas. Is there
Move approval with a negative declaration.
Second.
discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Site plan review is approved. And now we resume our hearing schedule. Everyone is welcome to remain as we continue, but those who wish or need to move on are free to do so. So, Heather, this brings us to where we were where you were before I interrupted you. So if you would please resume.
Just wondering if you'd like to call R1957 to see if the applicant has shown up.
Oh.
That would be a re-subdivision to divide one property into 2 new lots at 536 State Fair Boulevard. Butler Properties LLC is the owner and the applicant, and it lies within an industrial Class A zoning district. If anyone is here for that, we did hold that due to the earlier start time. We thought maybe the person did not get.
Yes, thank you for staying on top of that for us.
It doesn't look
and
like
noticing.
Also, call for any members who might want to speak about it.
So the applicant is here, correct?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. The applicant is not here. Nevertheless, if you are here interested in the proposed re-subdivision on State Fair Boulevard, R-19-57, and wish to speak in favor of this application, please come forward. Provide your name, address, and comments. And if you are here to speak in opposition to that same application, please come to the podium, provide your name, address, and comments. Okay, so still no speakers of either kind. We might as well continue to hold this hearing open in case someone appears before we eventually adjourn. So with that, if you would resume, and I'm assuming, but maybe it should be explicit, that the next two we will hear together as companion cases, but act upon them separately when the time comes for that.
Yes, the next two public hearings are companion pieces. One is a re-subdivision and the other is demolition and new construction in the form of a project site review. The re-subdivision is R-1956. This is to combine 5 properties into one new lot at 401 to 403, 405, 407, 409, and 411 to 413 Prospect Avenue. St. Joseph's Health Center Properties and BWI Hotel Acquisitions 1 LLC are the owners and applicants, and these lie within a Business Class A zoning district. The project site review is PR 1918. This is for demolition and new construction to construct a 5-story hotel with apartments and an unidentified commercial space on the first floor and parking underneath. This is at 401 to 403, 405, 407, 409, and 411 to 413 Prospect Avenue. St. Joseph's Health Center Properties and BWI Hotel Acquisitions 1 LLC are the owners and applicants, and the properties lie within a Business Class A zoning district.
Good evening. I'm John Bartolotti with Del Paz Architects at 101 North Clinton Street, Suite 300, Syracuse, New York. And we're here tonight to seek approval for the North Side Mixed-Use Project, which, as Heather just mentioned, it's comprised along 5 existing properties that are located on the northernmost one, or the northeasternmost one is located in the corner of Laurel and Prospect. And it is on a very steep incline, and it's strategically located right adjacent to St. Joseph's Hospital. And I say strategically because the project really is to provide a service to people that are seeking medical care that may be coming from a longer distance and that have the opportunity to be able to arrive early in the morning. Many early procedures, you have to be there at 6 in the morning. Some of these people are traveling 1-2 hours, so it's very difficult to get in for that. They have to stay before. This allows them the ability to be able to arrive early the night before, as well as in post-operative procedures when they're released from the hospital, sometimes not feeling comfortable to go home or that far. They have the opportunity to stay another day right adjacent to it. So the synergy between the hotel and the hospital is very instrumental in making this project work. A very close connection so that you can get right through there. And we're proposing a bridge actually over the street, which would be an enclosed bridge. It would attach the hospital right to this facility. Along with that, the properties that were there, all 5 properties, majority of them have been vacant for a while. And we are now seeking, obviously, to demolish those and get those started. The project itself is, as Heather had said, is 6 levels. There's 2 levels of parking, and we maximize the parking to the site. If you look at the site, starting from the lowest portion on Prospect to the upper portion of Prospect, it slopes, I think, around 16 feet roughly across that front site. So it's a very steep grade, very difficult. So we had to really be very creative on how we could actually get site access into this for parking. The parking requirements for zoning, we were trying to comply with as much as we could. To do that, the best fit for this project was to isolate the levels, because when you put a parking ramp within a garage, it usually diminishes your yield for parking spaces. So we have at the low point as you come up Prospect, you can pull right into the lower level, and at the high point, you're up high enough that you'll pull into the higher level. So each level is totally segregated from one another. This also helped another way to be able to segregate parking from the hotel and the also other use, which we have 1 level of apartments. So we start with 2 levels of parking. The lowest level has got about 68 car spaces. The second level up now has 48 spaces, and on that level, in the center of that, right about the middle of the slope, is what we call our motor lobby. Motor lobby, where you'll be able to pull in and pull off the road. We're seeking a increased parking level, or pulling back the curb line right there as well, to have a drop-off area for residents and for hotel guests. At that point, they would be able to enter into what we call the motor lobby, and then we go into a set of elevators and go up to the main lobby of the hotel, and then go into their space, or continue on up into the apartments that are on the uppermost level. So you have 2 levels of parking. A motor lobby is in that second level of parking, and then you have a full hotel lobby on the 3rd level. Then on the 4th and 5th, you have all hotel rooms, and on the 6th level is all apartments. And there is 1 deviation at the bridge level, which is just around the 4th level up, where we connect over the street to the bridge. There is a division there, so there's 4 apartments on that level as well. So we have a truly mixed-use project here, which I think is what the city is trying to move towards and enhance neighborhoods. With that, some of the things we looked at in zoning, and we don't believe this fell into the category of an apartment building. I know there's been a question on apartment setbacks and requirements of the zoning, but with the actual percentage of square footage, I think we're about 14% of the whole building is apartment level on the upper level. So the predominant use is really for hotel use. I think that gives you kind of a good overview of what the project is. We have a total of 114 keys. There's 24 apartments and 90 of hotel rooms. And I think that kind of covers the overall basis. So with that, I'll open it up to questions that you may have.
Thank you. Let's see if there are questions. Are there questions for the applicant?
Yes. The city transportation planner has a whole list of concerns which don't seem to have been addressed in your latest submission. So, and most of them deal with the interface between your building and the pedestrian environment, the lack thereof. So I'm wondering if you could address some of those concerns and how you might better deal with some of those situations.
Yes, and I have Joe Duran, who is also the civil engineer here, who could actually speak to some of these probably more detail than I can, but I'll start with the first step. So I know some of his concerns was on the curb cut, the number of curb cuts and size of curb cuts. I know because of the slope and because of what we're doing, it was very difficult to spread curb cuts across that incline. It was very difficult to access the site. So we strategically located them closer together so that you only had a couple points where you again coming off of grade. Currently, I think there's 5 curb cuts there right now. We're actually asking for, depending on how you look at it, it's either 2 or 3. One of them are right next to one another. And so there was a bunch of requests for landscaping that we actually went.
So, wait, I'm sorry. So he's particularly concerned about the 48-foot curb cut along Prospect.
Correct. Yep.
So, I mean, the fact that there might be 5 driveways there now, they're, 10, 12 feet, and they're not all
Sure.
next to each
Sure.
other. So that's a completely different situation.
Sure.
So I'm just concerned that that's a substantially large curb cut. And again,
So the reason for that is on the site, there's I believe, a 24-foot wide access lane into parking, which you normally need. And right adjacent to that is where the service door is for trash removal, which we recessed inside. And the incline in the street, right at that point, across the street is a entrance into the ER lot. Our concern was that we were going to have trucks on the street, and we didn't want to do that, so we created a pull-off lane, so when their trash is being removed, they can actually pull right into the door, get off the street completely, and then open the door, pull the trash out, get the dumpsters out, and go in without stopping or impeding any of the traffic going up and down the street. If we reduce that, the truck would have to maneuver within the street and creating more of a problem we thought with the traffic.
second thing he has here is that, well, maybe I'm confused. So he talks about the 48-foot curb cut along Prospect, but his next bullet point is that the southern opening has the turnaround space. So that's not what you were just describing. This is a second issue.
That's correct. That is at the upper high point, right at the corner of Laurel and Prospect. And again, we had the same concern on that as well. The hotel is going to have a control of who can pull in and out of the garage, so there will be a gate to get in. The intent is if you've registered online, you'll have a card that can get you right in. Or if you're not, you pull off and get your card. You get in, go in the motor lobby, go up and get a card, and then come in. For those that have a card that may have registered online, pull in, and as we all know, we've tried a card and it doesn't work. We didn't want them to pull up to the gate and then back out into the street again, creating the same situation. So we created a little pull-off spot right there. We originally had 2, and we saw his comment, so we reduced it to 1 so that they could just back into that space without having to pull into traffic again, and then go into the motor lobby, find out what's wrong with their card, and then come back. And that is the reason for that.
Okay. The next was that the sidewalk should not require transitions through the driveway openings.
So I believe we widened the sidewalks and brought them right across the curb cut in the latest version, correct? Yep.
That the sidewalk along Prospect should be 2 flags wide. So has that been changed?
Yes, it has.
Okay. And it says a sidewalk adjacent to the bump and curb is likely to be used as de facto snow storage, which will reduce the usable width. So if you've done that, okay. Talks about parking stalls along East Laurel.
Yes.
We preferred that they be removed.
We originally did not have them there, and I think to address some of their comments, we put them back in there. We can remove them if they would like that.
No.
They're in the city right away.
So his comment was parking stalls now shown along East Laurel Street should be removed or properly designed and applied for under revocable consent. So is that what you're pursuing, is revocable consent?
Well, we had actually looked at what's there, and there is striping in place in the right-of-way. We originally, when we went back, we did not address that, and so the last comment was to try to, we understood that he wanted them there, so we did put them back. If we have to apply for that, we...
Again, he's saying they're not preferred, but if you want them, you have to apply for revocable consent.
They're not ours, so yeah, well, they wouldn't be ours, so...
Somebody needs to clarify that for me, because I'm not sure what Neil was asking for and what's being proposed, but...
They're not in our parking count, so we're not using them.
So they won't be there. They'll be there and you won't use them? I think he doesn't want them there.
Address that, yeah.
I don't think it's...
My name's Joe Duran, TDK Engineering, 19 Genesee Street, Camillus. In response to Neil's original comments, we retained Gordon Stansberry, GTS Consulting. He put together a response letter, and we put some calls into Neil and haven't worked everything out. But those parking spaces in question are there right now, and they're in the city right away. It's not really our jurisdiction to do anything with them. They're in use, in service. There's drop curb there, granite curb. So I guess we...
So it sounds like you still have to talk to them based on what we have in our staff report and whatever your consultant is doing. Okay.
Sure.
So if it was about parking, do you want to go? Because I'm going to switch gears.
It's about parking. It's saying here like we preferred bike parking. I've seen it in the previous comments, but I'm not sure if you addressed that.
Yes, actually, we do have a spot inside for bike storage that come in and parking. We have a room actually on the motor level where you can bring bikes in and store them. Yep. That would be at the upper parking level, correct? Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
And my last question has to do with the design of the building itself. One of the things that staff uses in the project site review process is a point-by-point analysis of the proposal in light of a series of criteria, which I assume you've seen. So in terms of a number of features of the building design, there are items that have been noted as major deviations from the existing neighborhood. And admittedly, the existing neighborhood is an amalgam of a lot of things. But it would seem that one way to address that variety might be through materials or colors, and you've not done either of those things in the design. That is, most buildings are masonry, most buildings are red brick or some other variation of brown, those warmer tones. This is starkly different, as well as, of course, the fenestration patterns and everything else. Would you give any consideration into addressing those issues before the design is finalized?
Certainly, we have a bunch of criteria that we have to kind of satisfy at both ends as well. So we have brand criteria for the Marriott, which kind of does give us some requirements for color and materials, and that's really what has come forward. So we would have to take a look at what they will accept versus what the city has, and we'll figure out how to marry those together. We certainly would be willing to do that. As far as the masonry, that was really more of a structural issue, because the first two levels of that parking garage is a retaining wall, and it really has to be something that was...
That's why I was focusing more on color.
Right. So
and
color,
applied
yes.
Materials.
Yep.
And it's a Marriott, it's going to be the flag for this?
Yes.
Well, considering the two Marriotts that are adjacent to and or in Armory Square, I would think that just in terms of, again, that's materials, but it's also coloring. There was some consideration given to the context.
Certainly.
So whether you look at the hospital complex itself or the fact that you back up to the Salina Street corridor.
I think if we could marry something to the hospital, it would make sense, because it is pulling together. So yeah, absolutely, we can certainly do that. Yes. Yep.
And then the very last thing is in this rendering, and I think it's in Neil's comments as well, or maybe it's in the staff comments, in terms of the public right-of-way, the addition of street trees, there's no possibility of that on Prospect?
I think in this rendering, when this was done, was since this rendering has been done, we have gone back to the landscaping and added, and Joe, you can talk to who you spoke to on that as well.
Yeah, Steve Harris has provided some comments, so we've talked to him and we've updated the landscaping to reflect that. And his last comment back to us was he's got some plants he wants to switch out, but they're kind of...
So we could see something that more fully developed pedestrian
Absolutely.
environment.
And they are shown in the latest plans that we gave you, which were the landscape plans, I believe. We have the, right? Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Staff have that updated plan?
I believe page 354. Oh, you don't? Oh, right.
Don't have it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Jeff's going to tell you because of your fancy iPads. You have different page numbers than me.
Further questions?
No, nothing, no.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of either of these two applications? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to either application? Please come forward.
Page 46.
Thank you. So we have no additional speakers following the presentation. We do have some comments that sound like they might yield some additional changes potentially in the project. Madam Legal Counsel, would we be advised to maybe keep this hearing open?
I think that's advisable, certainly.
Okay.
I would still recommend letting any members of the public speak who have come tonight.
Okay. So in both instances, both the re-subdivision and the project site review, we will hold the hearings open. You heard the questions and the comments.
If you are inclined to act, I should have mentioned that you can condition any action as well, but if you would prefer to hold, that is...
Well, I'd rather leave it open so they can respond to the comments I've just made about
Mhm.
the design of the building, but also that one thing about the on-street parking and that I'm still not sure about.
Yeah.
On Laurel Street, that...
The 4 parking spaces.
Yeah, that Neil said no, but yes, and just so that we can clear up what he was looking for. He seems to say he doesn't want them on the street, I don't know whether it's their doing or somebody else is doing, so I just think we should get that cleared up.
Can we speak to that issue just?
Please.
In an effort to maybe forward this along. We've brought in GTS, we've addressed those comments, and some of his follow-up, Neil's comments were to make that layout on that side match the side where the hospital is. So we've laid in there the parking that's there and put the sidewalk behind it when we have landscaping called out. I guess the issue is that that's the city right away. We're not asking for occupancy permission on that at all. It's already there, it's fully constructed. So we don't want to leave any loose ends, make sure you're comfortable with it, but I think we can work with Neil on it, and I'm sure we can be flexible with how the final look is, but it's not even a call for us. So, all due respect, we'd like to, if we could move that along and maybe move this to the next level. And as far as keeping the hearing open and the color schemes, I think what we're trying to say is, and I'll speak for you, is we're flexible. We'll work with you, consistent with Marriott's requirements. And if at all possible, we'd like to close the public hearing and move along. We don't see any showstoppers here, and we'll make sure you're satisfied if as much as possible.
If you're flexible, you'll respect that we want to keep it open. And that's where we are.
Yeah, if you could get back to us with something by the next meeting, I think that would do it.
Yeah, we're not just going to push it along. All right, thank you.
Good. So we'll hold both hearings open and look for additional refinements of the project as discussed this evening, and look for prompt action thereafter. Our next.
Okay, the last public hearing this evening is SP 1917. This is a special permit for a gasoline service station and a restaurant within a convenience store. And this is at 401, 407, and 415 East Brighton Avenue. GAT 7393 LLC is the owner. Marabito Holdings, Inc. is the applicant. And this lies within a business class A and a commercial class B zoning district. Just to give a little perspective, this was remanded back by the Common Council. The commission did approve the special permit application in part, whereby you did not approve the driveway on Thurber. The commission, I'm sorry, this was forwarded to the Common Council. The Common Council remanded it back, and this is not an everyday occurrence with special permits, but it does happen from time to time. And so I think Jeff just gave you a letter to indicate the reasons why the Common Council would like the commission to reconsider the driveway on Thurber. And there is a revised site plan that
And this is something else.
Oh, okay.
This has nothing to do with anything? It does have something to do with it. Gotcha, okay. With this, okay.
So to continue, the site plan has been revised through some consultation with engineering and DPW, and one of the curb cuts has been changed. The northernmost curb cut is now a right out only onto East Brighton Avenue. The applicant, so you'll see 3 curb cuts: full access on Thurber, full access to the southernmost driveway on East Brighton, and right out only on East Brighton. So with that, I will let the applicant make their presentation. But again, just wanted to give you a little bit more information because this was remanded back by the Common Council for you to reconsider the Thurber Street driveway. Thank you.
Good evening, James Trasher, CHA 300 South State Street. As Heather stated, we're back here based on the Common Council meeting. It relates to the access on Thurber. When we initially started this project, things got submitted, traffic study was requested, traffic study was submitted, and the last stuff, all the comments from engineering, DPW, and traffic and safety probably hadn't been addressed to the fullest extent. Following the meeting and the Common Council meeting, we met with engineering, Dr. Lohan, we met with Neil on the traffic side, and we met with Jim French relating to his comments previously. If you look at their comments now, they all have been satisfied as it relates to the curb cut on Thurber. We changed the one exit point closest to the intersection at Thurber and Brighton to be right out only to allow the fueling trucks access back out. And so we are here seeking your approval as well. Common Councilors provided a letter to the zoning office today. Did you provide a copy of that to the board? So they have done that as well, recommending approval of this plan. So we're hoping that can occur this evening.
So the southernmost entrance on Brighton is full access, right?
Correct. So the southernmost, I'll take this. This is a full access driveway. This is a right out only, and then this is full access on Thurber. Reasoning for this right out only, you know, in the conversations we discussed, full access, and removal of this, but just for the circulation of the delivery trucks, you know, 53-foot trailers for dumping of gas, you know, access through. And this was a request of Neil, making sure that these radiuses work so the truck could get back out onto Brighton Ave and leave without the use of Thurber, but the full access drive on Thurber and here being pushed as far as possible away from the intersection. Zoning was present at those meetings as well, and we've satisfied all their comments as it relates to these access points.
What designates the northernmost entrance as right out only?
It's the width, the angle, where they're going. There'll be signage here as well.
What's the angle there?
It's tough to have it skewed, but we have it skewed here. There'll be, as I said, there'll be signage here as well. Typically, we would try to have longer throats, but based on the depth of the site, so we've limited the width here. There'll be signage along the right-of-way. That's all part of the permit process with all the departments. So this goes from you back to engineering, DPW, and traffic and safety when we pull the site and building permit. So all those signage requirements will be spelled out as we move forward with that.
My only comment on that entry is that it doesn't look like much of an angle to discourage motorists from entering. And I mean, I saw a couple examples of that this weekend where there was even more pronounced angle at another location and signage. And
I can tell you, if people want to not follow rules and regulations, I did the Genesee Plaza for the Rinaldi's Dunkin' Donuts. There's a right in, right out, and there's a full access driveway down. If people do not want to follow the motor vehicle laws and take a turn around a right in, right out, they can do that. But you hope that that doesn't happen. It will be discouraged.
Wait, you say they can do that?
Anyone can do anything.
Correct, but we don't want to open the gate for someone and make it easy for them to do that. You got to consider the lives at risk if someone does that.
Well, just like, hey, on a full access driveway, if someone comes in too fast and cuts off into the other side, there can be an accident. A right out only scenario is you have it, it's demarcated, it's noted, it's a tighter driveway. You try to do things to make things more difficult for people to do that. If there's a different angle that you would like to look at this, but based on our meetings with Jim French, who's from DPW, who deals with traffic, Neil, who deals with traffic, and John Kiblahan, we met with those folks along with our traffic and safety folks. So if there's other thoughts you may have, we consider.
Other comments for the applicant?
Just wanted to ask staff a question. So when we have the input from the Common Council returning a item to us, what are our options? Are we just proceeding as if this is a new hearing, or do we have to take anything into consideration from our previous action?
Well, I believe the request is specifically to reconsider the driveway on Thurber. And I do believe, let me just double check, that the comments from DPW, hold on.
It's not a de novo review, though. We get to consider the full record. Isn't that what you're asking, Walter?
I'm asking, right. So we've reviewed this in context of an entire plan before. Now we're being asked to consider just one part of the plan.
What you're describing, I'm sure you might even be thinking that you're being asked to segment something, and
Yes.
You are considering this specific issue, but of course the whole application as a whole, this is all part of that, and the letter from the Common Council, their request, and the new evidence from meetings with departments and comments that they've made are all part of that. So this is essentially a new hearing with new information as part of the same case.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
It also says that the original conditions were placed in error. I mean, I don't know that we made conditions in error. We made conditions, but, I mean, that's semantics. Don't worry about that. That was in the letter you just gave us.
Mm-hmm. It's right there.
Oh.
From the Common Council?
Yes.
Yes.
See it?
I got an email copy of it when it was delivered but I didn't know the statement of error.
Well, what they're referring to is the fact that Jim French's original comments about Thurber, he then reconsidered and changed his comments. Apparently he was on vacation, and...
Oh, but that wasn't, I mean, that was just one of many things that we considered based on the public hearings.
Well, I'm just addressing the specific question that's probably what they meant, because they specifically cite comments from DPW.
Right.
So...
Yeah, so that was just one of a whole bunch of things that we looked at. Okay, I got it.
Okay. And I do have DPW transportation planners updated comments about the site plan, which includes the right out only is acceptable. So just okay.
What's the date of his comments, updated comments?
October 1st.
Okay. Okay. Right. All right. Subsequent to our original action. Further questions, either of staff or the applicant? No. Okay. Thank you very much.
Just for fun, there is a common counselor here. If you wanted to ask more specific information that I'm not privy to.
I'm about to ask if there are individuals who might wish to speak in favor of the application. Please come forward.
Joe Carney, 115 Sheck Ave, Syracuse, New York. First District Counselor. I assume there were going to be more of my colleagues here, but I guess I can speak to a little bit of that. When we received this on our agenda, we had conversations with folks in the DPW and with the applicant, several of the counselors that received calls about it, that there was... it was lacking in information or comment from Jim French, or there were new comments where he was okay with the Thurber entrance and exit, and we sent it back on the premise that the applicant, wanted it on Thurber, and that if DPW was okay with it, that we as a council were okay with it as well. I think a lot of time people expect all of us to be experts in area, and I tend to go back and rely on the folks that are experts, like in the DPW, that this was acceptable and I guess safer. So that's why I guess we sent it back to you. Okay, thanks.
Other individuals who might want to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come to the podium. So, no additional speakers beyond the counselor and the presenter. We can then close this hearing, I believe, and that completes. Oh, wait a minute.
Number 5.
Famous number 5.
You held that over till next.
Pardon me?
Just hold it.
You held that over till next month, or next hearing meeting.
I just thought before we completely leave, and did anyone show up for the State Fair Boulevard project? Okay, all right. That then completes, I think, all our hearings for this evening. And what's left for us, we have 2 held over. It would be the last hearing that we just heard from the applicant with the East Brighton Avenue project, the service station special permit. And so I would ask if there's a motion on this application.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Just wanted to add for the record, because we have had other developments similar to this of service stations with convenience stores, particularly one that was in a similar heavily trafficked area. Another service station was on Tennessee Street, Missouri Boulevard. We were concerned about the width of driveways. This is one of the conversations we had when Burndale was developing multiple driveways, again, off of Genesee Street, Henry Boulevard, and we were concerned about the angles to discourage people breaking vehicle and traffic laws. It's a similar conversation that we're having here. And to be clear, we all support, of course, obeying all the vehicle and traffic laws of the state of New York. So I just wanted to put it out there. Again, we always compare apples to apples when we consider these developments.
And I just want to clarify that, Rebecca, you're saying you're moving to approve it with all the waivers that are still, whatever, are in here?
Yes.
And so for
I think it was signage waivers.
with all the waivers, and just for clarity's sake, the special permit with or without the Thurber Street?
With.
Okay.
Did you issue a declaration, negative or positive? A negative declaration?
If I didn't say it, I should have.
He meant to.
Yes.
Okay, and all other waivers or conditions from the original?
The original.
Okay, okay. That is good clarification. Further discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? It seems as though this is approved. And that now takes us to our authorizations for our next meeting, which will be October 28th. Looks like we have 5 new applications, 2, 3. Oh, right.
Number 5.
Yeah, it's famous number 5 and 6 and 14 will be added to the docket for the 28th. Is there a motion to authorize those hearings?
There's only 3 additional. R-1957, which was number 5,
Mm-hmm.
and then the 2 companion pieces on
Oh,
Prospect Ave.
okay. Yeah. 19-58, who knows when that will,
Right.
okay. Is there a motion for those authorizations?
So moved.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Those hearings are authorized for our next meeting. Is there any additional business for the commission this evening?
Just some correspondence. And Jeff can hand these out too. We just got a letter from the Corporation Counsel's office that they issued a positive declaration for the proposed new zoning ordinance. And so seeker is continuing to move along. So
Okay,
do you need
that's
another
good. At some point in the near future, maybe at our next meeting, certainly by the meeting thereafter, we should probably give some consideration to our 2020 calendar.
Yes.
So that we can sync it up with the council's calendar and the planning board's calendar and avoid the major holidays that we need to avoid that might fall on a Monday.
That's right. So we just received a tentative Onondaga County Planning Board schedule.
Oh, good.
The Common Council schedule is probably the most critical because we don't want to
Have too big of a gap.
overlap or
Yeah.
have too big of a gap or have meetings on the same day because we don't want to keep applicants waiting. So, yes, it'll probably be, I'm thinking November though. So I will talk to the clerk and see, when they anticipate having a schedule for 2020, but absolutely, yes, it's on my radar as well.
I think November's probably fine, but we just don't want to let it go much beyond that,
Right.
so we can get word out.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. One last thing, at the next meeting, under whatever it is, old or new business, could you give us a status report on the rezone effort? Like which
Yes,
we
I
are?
can quickly give you one right now. We're having a meeting with the common councilors. They, some have expressed interest that they would like to have the final decision with respect to special permits, which really means the whole decision because of seeker. And so we have not had a committee meeting yet. I have drafted a memo outlining the existing procedures and regulations and tried to compare it to, because it's not always apples to apples, the proposed new ordinance. So that has not yet gone to them. I just finished drafting it. So they would like to consider having authority over special permits from beginning to end. So that is the latest update. I don't know what the outcome will be, but if any, I anticipate they will have a committee meeting. And so if any of you would like to be apprised of that committee meeting, I can let you know. And we're doing final edits on all of the other things.
And that's my greatest concern.
Yes.
with what I figure as the principal issues that I noted in my comments. One is procedure. One has to do the MX classifications, and then the third was something I can't remember right now because it's late and I'm tired. But I would in particular like to know whether or not those were addressed at all, and if so, how.
Okay.
Especially the procedural one. Because basically we will have no role.
All right.
Anything else for us this evening?
No.
Second?
Second.
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Any abstentions? We are adjourned until October the 28th.